Hello and welcome, ladies and gentlemen. I am the Curious Owlbear, and I'm here to explore everything Dungeons & Dragons, including history, lore, monsters, map making, DM tips, and more. If you find that you've learned something, or you're having fun, consider giving this video a like, as there will be more to follow. The last video covered the Days of Thunder, which saw the rise of the creator races and their centuries-long struggles against the forces of titans and giants for control of Faerun. After centuries of conflict, the dragons launched a terrible assault on the remaining Aearee empires called the First Flight of Dragons, 30,000 years before the Dale Reckoning. The draconic forces in the assault were led by a general of Tiamat named Nagamat, and the Aearee nations were utterly destroyed. However, not long after the dragons had conquered most of Faerun, they were plunged into religious conflict over differing philosophies. The most violent conflicts were between the followers of Zymor, the draconic name of Bahamut, and the worshippers of Tiamat. Around the year -29,500 DR, one such battle took place. General Nagamat was drawn into the conflict, and he was slain in a great battle with the followers of Bahamut. This sparked the beginning of the DRAGONFALL War, which would last for several centuries. During this war, the spawn of Tiamat will appear, the first of which is known as Kurtulmak, a patron deity of the kobolds. Some legends say that Bahamut created the Dragonborn with the intention of answering the spawn of Tiamat, while other legends say that Bahamut simply transported some of the Dragonborn from Aearee to Toril during the Dragonfall War. In either case, the spawn of Tiamat and the followers of Bahamut remained locked in battle for several centuries, while the smaller humanoid races began to settle on Toril. About 27,000 years before the Dale Reckoning, the Fae opened planar gates, enabling the first elves to travel to Toril. The first to cross the threshold were known as the Green Elves, or the Illithiri, and they were able to negotiate with the dragons, carving a small kingdom for themselves in southern Faerun. By this time, the great northern regions of Faerun were ruled by the giants of Astoria, which were said to have been created by Anum Allfather, deity of the giant race. Astoria stretched from Vilhan Reach to the Cold Lands. About 1,000 years after the first elves came to Faerun, an avatar of Garrix, a lesser draconic deity of fire, renewal, and destruction, led a company of red dragons in an invasion of Astoria called the Thousand-Year War. During the Thousand-Year War, Durathyl, a prince of the elven kingdom of Tuntagir, took a silver dragon as his mount. He was forced to make a deal with a red draconic deity, whose servant asked for the human sacrifice of his best friend in return for a silver dragon egg. Durathyl knew that he must imprint himself on the new dragon egg if ever he were to gain the trust of such a beast, and so he made the deal with the great red worm MHAIRSHAUK, known as the Master of Mountains, with a caveat. He would not deliver his best friend, Charlia Moonflower, for another 200 years. The pair used this time to train the young silver dragon within a magical dimension, and they became very attached to the young beast. When the arranged date came for Durathyl to deliver his friend to the red worm, he sent his unknowing friend to check wind conditions before the battle, and the red worm attacked Moonflower. Durathyl used his attack as a distraction, flanking with the young silver dragon. MHAIRSHAUK smiled as he realized the sacrifice would not be willing, and the Master of Mountains quickly slew the young silver dragon. Through magic, however, the red worm fell from the sky, along with Durathyl, and both were slain by the impact. The red draconic deity with whom the deal had been made considered Durathyl's debt repaid, and spared the life of Moonflower. Forever after, Durathyl was known as the first Dragon Rider. By the conclusion of the Thousand-Year War 25,000 years before the Dale Reckoning, the giant kingdom of Astoria had been reduced to a few small territories centered on the Great Glacier in the north of Faerun. This ended the reign of giants. Around this time, the red King-Killer star began to periodically appear in the night sky over Faerun. the elves in northern Toril noticed its magical nature and created the Draco Rage Mythal in an attempt to harness its power. The artifact caused dragons throughout Faerun to be slowly driven mad with a lust for destruction while the star was in the sky. Dragons began to turn on one another and even killed their offspring. Each time the King Killer star appeared, the effect over dragons would last for 10 days before subsiding until the star's next appearance. By negative 24,500 DR, the war between Tiamat and Bahamut had elevated. Legends from this time state that the spawn of Tiamat and other dragon spawn began to appear. Among them were kobolds and Aeards. The kobolds soon discovered the gem caves, where GARL GLITTERGOLD, the gnomish deity, had stored the souls of gnomes. Kobolds quickly took control of the caverns, effectively enslaving the gnomish race. However, after 500 years of torment due to the Draco Rage Mythal, many dragons were driven mad, and they destroyed 2 draconic realms, which I will not even try to pronounce, but I've put their names on the right side of the screen. Kobolds living on both realms were utterly destroyed, and Asgaroth noticed their plight. In the hope of saving some of the kobold race, Asgaroth promoted Kurtlemak to godhood and gave him the duty of protecting the species. GARL GLITTERGOLD, knowing that Asgaroth was distracted by the destruction of 2 draconic realms, acted quickly to save the remaining gnomes from their enslavement. They were freed, and began to settle the various deep places of Toril. 24,000 years before the Dale Reckoning, Draconic philosophers came to the conclusion that gods who goaded their followers into centuries-long wars were not worth their devotion. Many dragons became ambivalent toward their gods, and it is speculated that several of the lesser draconic deities perished due to this disposition. The great worms of southern Faerun launched a continuous brutal assault against the Yuan-Ti in the lands of MHAIRSHAUK. The Yuan-Ti were unable to hold on to their homeland as they lost control of the realm. Following the Draco Rage Mythal, dragons were unable to retake control over Faerun, and the elven people began to spread across the continent. Due to their success, other humanoid races began the slow, steady climb towards civilization, which prompted the beginning of the epoch known as the First Flowering, which will be the subject of the next video. I hope you've enjoyed our look at the time of dragons on Faerun. If you know something I don't, or if anything was new to you, let me know about it in the comments. I look forward to seeing what you have to say. Until next time, stay curious, adventurers.